I'm actually shooting this on Monday, the day before Election Day, and this episode is premiering Wednesday. What I have to say today is true regardless of who wins, will remain to be true after the results, and dare I say, won't change depending on who wins. That's right. What I have to say today, it won't matter who actually wins this election. This still will remain true. Find out now on Miss Cleo. Talk to me, Taylor.
Deemed the celebrity whisperer by Playboy.
This is the best interview of the day.
Thanks for having me.
You hit the nail on the head.
100%.
Period, yeah.
Touchdown. They're cracking me up.
Wear them, baby. This is good.
Taylor Ferber.
We are in a current state of living in society where there are just some things we can't escape. Death, taxes, inevitably the end of the Barbie movie, and also our extremely tribal society. We are basically a country of two tribes. Like, it just is what it is at this point. And I think that we can all agree we are well past the point of hair braiding, kumbayaing, s'mores at Girl Scouts, all that shit is out the window, okay? Like, just call me an angry ex-girlfriend throwing your clothes and your shit and your laundry out of the window. I think at this point, that ship has sailed and it's too far gone. And so we kind of have to embrace, not kind of, we actually do. Like, here's a reality check, babe, like you never thought was coming. And, just let me just hit you with one reality check after the other. Because like I said, I don't know who's going to win tomorrow. As you're watching this, it will be yesterday at this point. And so that may be a harsh reality check for you, as is this. Like, sorry, you have to toughen up. This isn't a private school in California that wants their kids to take off on election day because it's too stressful for them. Like, I'm sorry, buck up. The time is now. And it's time to accept the reality that we are so divided, and we are literally two tribes at this point.
Position. Donald J. Trump is now president of the United States. President Obama.
And so today I'm really going to be looking at, it's something that we can't avoid, but how do we coexist and how do we move forward? And I have to say, listen, both sides spout this nonsense and tout this idea of like bringing unity together and we're all going to come together. Bullshit, bitches. Okay, were we born yesterday? Maybe this is giving this country the benefit of the doubt, but no, we weren't born yesterday. No, and both sides are guilty of this. Fact check and cross check me, okay? You have Trump, who loves to call Kamala on the left like radical and lunatics and all this. And then you have the left, who is just as guilty, in one breath saying they're going to unify. And the other, you have Joe Biden literally using a thesaurus to call the right everything. They're like, he's like, I want to kick them in the ass. They're garbage. They're deplorable. Like every bad name in the book. Then you have Kamala being like, they're fascist Nazis, all this, but don't worry, I'm going to unite us all, even though you're all garbage Nazis. Like, hey, make it make sense. So you have that. And so my phone just came to life. It concurs. Trust me, this phone has heard some shit, and if I picked up, it would have some shit to say. But I also have been really enthralled and captivated, which is like, goddamn, I'm not even a smoker. Like, I'm sure like I need a cigarette after this and after the result. Like, it is stressful, but I have been so compelled and captivated watching the ongoing rallies, the sprint to the finish line. Like, it is survival of the fittest, bitch. Okay. And there are no prisoners to be taken. But watching how fervent and passionate both bases are. And I watch it thinking there is going to be one side, so to speak, one camp, one base of millions of people in this case that is going to be so furious, scared, disappointed, right? And we have to work this out. It's also worth noting, like, just call me Jamie Lee Curtis because it's Wednesday, but it feels like Freaky Friday every damn day because of how the left and the right, not only are it's so divisive, but how the roles have just switched on your ass, like some kind of witchy spell. The roles have reversed, and it is a little freaky when you think about it, how the left has really become the party of elitists and privileged and Harvard grads and what have you, in the coastal cities and all that. And how the right has really become the garbage man, neon vest donning working class, dare I say even poor people group. So I don't know how that should happen. And you even, I do, but that's another tale. That is another tale for another time, okay? But I even spoke about this with Matt Taibbi, who's the legendary, he was a former Rolling Stone political correspondent and White House journalist who worked in cahoots with Elon Musk to expose the Twitter files. And we talked about this and how there has been such a complete and utter reversal, even in our world with media and culturally, right? How it used to be the left were like the cool hanging, like swinger parties, like don't tell us what to do. And the right were like all uptight. Everything is taboo, like sticks in their assholes. And how in a weird way, don't get me wrong, like the right definitely still, like the six may be a little further out, but like they're still definitely in their assholes with certain things of like conservative values. But for the most part, let's be real, how culturally there's been a complete role reversal in that way, how the left is like so uptight of what you can and can't do in censorship and what you can and can't say and punishing and cancel culture and all that no fun club bullshit. Like, did not sign up for this. Okay, thank you, next. And with that, actually, how I posted before this to all you fine ass looking people with brains popping abound, like some other things popping abound, but I have a mic covering one of them, and that is intentional because they don't just give it all away. We keep the people wanting, like, actually what these results are going to end up doing, but in a much more dystopian, bleak way. But I went to you guys and I took to my Instagram and said, hey, like, I'm shooting this on Monday. The election results are going to be Tuesday night. Allegedly, we'll say, I saw the funniest meme sidebar that was, I think it was Babylon Bee, and it was like, Democrats forecast that it will take 4 years to calculate election results. But, and this is airing Wednesday, so I asked, what's on your mind? What would still be relevant given all of this chaos? It's all been leading up to this. It's really intense. The world is watching. We're emotionally invested. We're anxious as fuck past the Prozac. And what would still be relevant that you want to hear Wednesday after we hear all this? Again, after, I don't even want to say the dust has settled because, bitch, the dust is just formulating. Like, get your weapons, get your headgear, get your Prozac because it's going down. That's a sad thing, right? And with all this, too, is like, is it the end? No, it's just the beginning. It is the beginning of the end. So saddle up, soldiers. And, a few of you did say, I am namely conservative, or just maybe not conservative, but just voting conservative, this round, saying I'm scared. I'm scared to vocalize my vote, be it among coworkers, colleagues, friends, family, and again, that, and I've talked about this and explored this a lot, but that just goes to show the chokehold and the grip that the left has over everything, quote, cool and mainstream and acceptable and morally correct and all this. So that's that. Alex crawling now out of this little rabbit hole of our nightmares. And so, yeah, there's a lot happening. There's investment, there's hopes, there's fears, there's a lot. And how do we move forward without literally embarking into a fucking civil war? Everybody's like, World War III, World War this. World War is going to be on our ass with each other. okay, if we are not careful. Facts are facts, babe. Okay, just ask Mark Zuckerberg, or don't actually, because his team couldn't do this if their fucking life depended on it. But all that to say, again, the reality check you may or may not have wanted in the state of affairs. And like I said, just to kind of like wrap this, you know what this is? This is the present, the Nightmare Before Christmas, where the little kids are all excited and they're unwrapping like corpse, beheaded, dismembered like heads in their present. Like that's what we're getting here. Okay. But how do we deal with this actually moving forward? Because it is a reality. It is a reality that at this point, it is past the point of no return. We are two completely on completely opposite ends of the spectrum tribes. And like I said, this is going to persist and perhaps even heighten and get more intense and dramatic regardless of who wins. The gift that keeps on giving. No, this is like an episode of Lost that just, we don't know where we are. We don't know how to get home. No one asked for this. We are on plane 747, whatever the fuck the plane is. This is it. Now that we're all on the same page, so glad about that. Now that we all know the state of affairs, how do we actually deal with this? And I've been thinking a lot about this lately because, like I said, even I on this show have preached the like, gotta come together, team USA. Like, you know, Putin and Kim Jong-un and all these fuckers are literally jerking off to this. This is what they want. But I'm kind of, you know, lost the optimism at this point for that actually to happen. So how do we deal with this reality? I've been thinking about this because I have to tell you, you know, here in the great state, like unless you're Gen Z or below, we hate to lose. We hate to lose in the great country of America. No one likes it. But a lot of us aren't sore losers. We've learned, I'd like to think, to grin and bear it, suck it up, and move on. Namely, where do we see this but in sports? And I have to tell you, I am so sick of watching my teams lose lately. Like, a girl has had enough. First, I watched the Yankees choke. Like the dog in Christmas Vacation under the dinner table in the World Series, losing to their rival, the Dodgers, on their home fucking field. It hurts. It burns. It's all of the things. And there's nothing worse than watching the other team take the championship on your own field, like humiliation station. And I watched it to my despair in the comfort of my home. And I was watching all of the fans there in the Bronx at Yankee Stadium, thinking, like, I'm watching them and they're on the edge of their seats and they're so anxious and white knuckling it. And I'm watching them thinking, this is just a portion. Like, imagine the thousands of fans relying on this and depending on this, that the players feel a pressure to live up to and not disappoint. But I don't know how much that pressure is on because I don't want to talk about it. I know what that, you would think it was like little league practice, guys, basic mistakes, but nonetheless, it happened. I then, a couple days later, okay, when I recovered, watched my alma mater, Penn State, choke in another huge game. Penn State was undefeated, also playing our rival, Ohio State Buckeyes. Wait for this. At Penn State in the whiteout game. And I'm all having my school pride. I'm like, oh my God, you know, the stadium holds that. It's like 111,000 people, which I know this has this former tour guide, like, not to brag, but you know, fourth largest stadium, I think, in the world. I think at one point, actually, when I was a student, it had just beat Michigan as the largest, you know, college stadium in the world, like all this kinds of shit. And I'm watching the whiteout and Penn State's undefeated. And it's like they're going up against Ohio and they're starting out strong. And then what happens? Their dick goes limp and Ohio pulls it out yet again on our field when we were undefeated, one of the biggest stadiums in the world at the whiteout game, and we all have to pack up our toys and go home. But I doubt any PSUer was getting off that night, at least not happily. Okay, if they did, it had to take mental work and stamina. How that fucked with our psyches. And so I thought about it with sports, right? Same thing. It's like you have two teams who are so invested, and yet what happens? But you have to coexist. The game goes on. You have to move on. And especially you see this in the sort of what's like kosher tradition of the coaches shaking hands after the game. And why do they do this? Even though the complete and moral disappointment, humiliation, upset, it's respect for the process and respect for the game. And respect that, you know what, you guys came out on top. We'll come back again next year, but it is what it is. It's how the cookie crumbles. I am so sorry to Gen Z and below. Like, it is not all about you, That's the difference. It's like there's something happening that day. And we all have to, like, everything, the whole world, just the sun sets on the whole world. It's like, no, you got to move on, No one likes to lose, but sometimes, like, you have to be civil and keep it moving. So that's the sportsing this week, if anybody cared. Okay. An example of the contrary and the antithesis to this, to bring it back to culture, pop culture, and politics, is a story you may or may not have seen that just happened with actually a friend of mine, Joy Vila, who is a really successful Billboard charting artist. She's an activist, influencer. She's been on the show before, and she's been really outspoken. She's, I believe she's Black and Latina, and just very outspoken conservative. And she's the one who infamously would wear, like, MAGA-themed dresses on the Grammys red carpets. And what happened was her dress designer in Virginia, his name is Andre Soriano. We had a Karen call up somebody, and report this man for having, I guess, pro-Trump signs outside of his store and demand that they be taken down. Like, that's another thing, right? It's like left to right, up or down, black, white, rainbow, doesn't matter. The Karens do not discriminate. They will come for your ass, like a tribe of their own. But I digress. And he argued, this is First Amendment right. This is freedom of speech, of political, you could argue with anything, political party, religion, individuality. Like, are you kidding me? Like, an upset Karen is disgruntled and I have to take the candidate, the nominee, my party, what I believe in down because it makes you feel a type of way, Karen. Like, absolutely so intolerant and fucking wild. Like, I saw this meme and it was genius. Next year, I'm giving out 1984 to the kids at Halloween. Again, fact check me. Go in another time capsule. It is happening. Okay. And I revisit it, like, again, just shameful, completely shameful and unnecessary, because what everybody fails to realize, and perhaps that this is, what brings it to the end of all this, is that there is somebody on the other side who feels the exact same way about you and your side, right? So it's like that could very well be turned around and someone could be like ripping down Harris Wall's signs at your storefront. And like you believe in them just as much as this Trump supporter believes in him, but they're wrong. And you're like, the tables could easily be turned on your ass, even if you believe in what you believe in so passionately. So think about that. That's like something people lose sight of. Again, like our minds are all being infiltrated by the younger generations. That's like the me. No, it's not. How many take a sip of something every time there is a reality check in this show. But drink responsibly, children. We're going to get to a story of somebody who did not. So I revisited, in light of this story, a time I interviewed Joy at the Grammys on the red carpet before she even came on my show or became a friend of mine. And it was 2019. At this time, she was wearing that Build the Wall dress that literally looked like a wall. It said Build the Wall on the back and had barbed wire, the whole thing. And I'm thinking, like, this lady has balls the size of Alaska because to show up at an elite lefty Hollywood event like the Grammys in this, like that is something. And I asked her about it on the carpet, like, this can't be easy. How do you feel? Are you feeling nervous? And I'm reading a bit, I'm paraphrasing, but reading a bit of her response because it's so timely to what is going on now. But she kind of said, bring it on. Like, at this point, I've already gotten ruthless death threats, rape threats, racial slurs thrown at me. And she said, regardless of what I say, they're gonna hate me because of who I am, what I think, and I won't be able to win. And I further love what she said because she kind of owned it in a way of like, hit me with your best shot fire, way Pat Benatar little protege, because she said we should be doing this. Like, this is what I love to, we should be agreeing to disagree. Like, we should have a plethora of ideas and diversity. Further, you know, she said, I would argue that we all agree more than not. We all want basic things like protection and safety and diversity, individuality, right? That kind of patriotism at the end of the day. But what also was so fascinating that she said at the time, that again applies to all this and is still so relevant, is she said, trust me, I've gotten hate from the right too. Now, this is somebody who is a really prominent, notable conservative influencer. And she said, I get hate from the right too. I don't fit in their nice, neat little box either. I'm a vegan. I have tattoos. Like, I am not this pearl clutching conservative gal. And that's the thing that we have to remember here and moving onward, for the love of God. Upward and onward, I think. I don't know. Maybe we are just in the plane forever and ever until the end of time in Lost. But this unrealistic sort of set of standards and boxes that each side sets, it's like you have to hit the checklist of all, like, we're fucking speed dating. You have to hit the checklist of all of these things, or you can't sit with us. And I would argue most people don't feel like that either, and it's complete and utter hogwash. So that's something else that she struck at the time that still, you know, now really stood out to me. And with that said, because no one, I mean, people do, but for the most part, like, none of us want to be boxed in. Yes, it feels good to be tribal, but underneath there's humanity in all of us. Be it, you know, your braless Barbie self, or be it a Joy Vila who's vegan with tattoos but is like a Black Latina conservative. But, you know, like, there's humanity under all of us. And so I want to hit you with, just before we wrap, a couple of pop culture celebrities. So I know you would rather watch paint dry than hear me talk about celebrities right now. But 3 examples that really get to the humanity underneath us all, right? And don't forget, like, you know, even my humble beginnings with my site stripping down celebs and getting to this in what otherwise was such a glossy, fake facade of celebrity culture. You know, it's like taking the iPhone away from Cardi B reading at a Kamala Harris rally, like that kind of thing, like really getting to the essence of what they actually really say and think. So first you have Jason Kelce, who's Travis Kelce's brother. And this actually wasn't like the parking lot after the Penn State game. And you see someone antagonizing him, being like, how do you feel that your faggot brother's dating Taylor Swift? And Jason Kelce literally grabs this guy's phone in defensiveness, you know, sticking up for his brother, and takes it and literally throws it on the ground. And when the guy like runs up to him all pissed off, he's like all like who's a faggot now? Who's a faggot now? You know, it's like, well, I know you are, but what am I? That kind of thing.
Hey, Kelsey! How do you feel your brother's a faggot?
Kelsey, can I get a fist bump? Kelsey, can I get a fist bump?
And I thought at first, I was like, okay, like there is so much power in just being above it all. I always think of the analogy of the king, right? Like, do you want to be the king or queen who's just like above the peasants, like shit talking you and what, like just above, like you're unbothered? I think there's such power in that like stoic nature. Or are you going to be the one who stoops down to like spit in their face, right? And every now and then that does happen. Trust me, as a hot-headed Italian bitch who always has to be right and I will fight to the death, okay? Like death before dishonor. I'm learning this myself. But sometimes like it will be off with their head. And it's like, that's what happened with Jason Kelce. It's like, I can understand that humanity of like sticking up for your brother and defending the family name and just not taking that, right? So again, would it have been a stronger sort of move and symbolism to just be like, okay, dude, whatever, like get fucked, like kick rocks? Yes. But again, that's humanity. Sometimes we all slip. Sometimes we all crack. You also have Zachary Ty Bryan, who, not to be confused with Zach Bryan, the country singer, because I did, speaking of letting it get the best of you, I let the news cycle get buzzy headlines get the best of me because I did think that this was Zach Bryan. He's having a rough go right now. Like, big breakup with the Barstool girl. Like, there's a lot. But anyway, this is another Zachary Bryan. He was a big actor on Home Improvement. And I thought that this was so compelling to watch because he got caught in a DUI, I think in like Oklahoma. And he had allegedly left a bar and couldn't drive, so was sleeping on the side of the road in his car, where they found him. And, they basically caught him, intoxicated. And I literally watched the whole 16-minute dash footage. And it's so compelling because he's so just like, instead of being like, fuck you guys and brr, 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 and all riled up, he's so human. He's like, I fucked up and like just level headed and like, my wife and kids and all that. And I thought, wow, like that's so refreshing to watch. And again, in that humanity of just being like, you know what, I fucked up. Like, I'm not perfect. The last example I have is Dak Shepard and Kristen Bell, where there was a funny little interaction between them where she had, and by the way, I've interviewed them before and they are the coolest couple ever, like so down to earth. So none of this surprises me. But Kristen Bell had an on-screen kiss with someone and Dax made a comment like, wow, you've never kissed me this passionately. Like, this shit is like hardcore. What? And she's like, I know, right? And kind of joking about it. And people being so defensive and again, like tribal, and especially men, like he could have easily been like, and again, who knows what happens behind closed doors, but he could have easily been like, fuck this, fuck you, like what the fuck, and getting all like insecure and threatened and defensive. And instead, really having that humanity of not like kind of being above it, like ideally what we all would be, being above it in that moment when he could have done the other, like I said.
Well, it's not that we're above it. It's I think that we understand it.
You haven't changed a bit since stepping foot out here.
I have a lot of money now. That's the big change.
Sometimes with all this, again, like I know I'm working on it. I'm striving to be the one who just doesn't let it get to that, like I said, rising above versus the one like spitting in their face, right? I think there's such power in that. But the point is, we all, no matter what side, have this humanity that gets the best of us sometimes. I mean, we can be in these tribes. We can be the Yankees or the Dodgers. We can be Penn State, Ohio State. We can be Trump, Kamala, but we all have this humanity underneath it all. And so with that, with these results, with all of this crazy time, like I said, I ain't gonna pretend I may be a dreamer, but I'm also a little bit of a realist. So I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that we are in the unifying of our country, kumbaya. Like I said, I think our reality is past that point. So knowing what we know, how do we at least make this a place where we can be civil and coexist and move forward? And I think everything that I just laid out will really help, in acknowledging that they're two sides of the same coin, essentially. That people on the, quote, other side have the humanity and the downfalls and the flaws and the passionate belief. They think they're right just as much as you do, and the validity as the other. And to have more respect. With all that said, just bring it back to the sports analogy. I know that before and or after a Penn State game, I can tailgate and throw some back and have some fun with, Ohio State fans, and enjoy a good wiener before after. Not like that. Not like that. But you know what I mean.